Today, I'm going to share with you how I use Roam for my Ancestry research. I also want to show you how I'm taking select data from some of these family members that I'm researching and filing that information into Notion. Notion is going to act something like my front end. This is going to be a booklet that a lot of my family members can sift through. They can go through different portals that relate to them. I'm going to be in the back end inside of Roam, gathering information and making sure everything is accurate as much as I can. So this project is actually something me and a couple of cousins are doing together, so it is a bit of a collaborative effort and is why I like using Notion, because that's kind of where we are communicating with each other to make sure everything is good. So what I want to share with you today is how I'm using Roam42 Smartblocks to make my workflow super smooth inside of Roam research. Now, Roam42 Smartblocks is an extension for Roam research and is something that I, at this point, probably wouldn't use Roam unless I had these smart blocks. So I'm going to walk through with you how I am getting information. Mostly I'm getting information from Ancestry.com. I've been on that website for a few years now. I do have a lot of research already conducted, already made. I have a lot of census records and other documents already saved. I'm going to go and sift through all the research I have thus far and verify to see if everything is accurate and good for publishing into Notion. Let's go through this workflow, how all of these family members connect, how I am relating them to one another, and also how I'm getting all of their data into Roam and how I'm doing it efficiently with these templates. This is my main page over on the Roam side of things. This is my Ancestry page. I did zoom in a couple times, so hopefully you guys can see it better. But basically what I have here is a line of all of the main families that I am beginning with. So these are the families that I'm looking into. And my idea for this is to start at great-grandparents and whatever their surnames or their family names were, and then just to try to find as far back as I can go. Also, I'm going to be recording some aunts and uncles as well. I have about 7 family names that I'm working with here, of which are laid out as to-dos up here, and nested underneath is an embed to inside of that page. And I actually have another nested embed inside of each person that shows their children. Like for instance, in Brennan, we have John Brennan. His son, that would be the through line to me, would be Peter Thompson Brennan. And then underneath Peter Thompson Brennan, I'm seeing all of his kids, and they are all displayed in the color green. And then the through line person, Harold Whitehead Brennan, coming down here, is labeled in this blue color. And that's because I'm using a namespace link for extended family members. But that's basically how this is set up. Let's go into one of these families, maybe Chu. Coming in here, going right down to the bottom, the person that's closest to me in generation, nested at the very bottom, and then at the top is the person that is the farthest away. So if I go into Elwood Chu, over in the sidebar, I do have a section for children, and that is where I'm getting this embed from. So visually, that's how I'm making this all make sense. I really like this. I really needed just a one giant page with all of the names going down in a line, because that's kind of how my brain works best. Let's look at some information for each family member that I have. So going into Chu, so I have the year he's born through a link, his name, his generation number. Now the reason I'm doing this, number one, it's easy to just quickly look at a person and see where they kind of land on the tree by just looking at this generation number. Also, I want to create a formula inside of Notion that shows exactly what type of relationship this person directly has to me, like my great-great-great-great aunt or great-great-great-great uncle. Next to that, I have in parentheses Virginia. This is where they died. This is the main major region where they died. And again, that's through the template, which I'll show you. And then I have their spouse right next to them. So if you look down at Jonas Albertus Chu, by just looking at this page, I know that his father is Elwood and his mother is Mary. And I can also see all of his brothers and sisters above him. You'll see he lands right in the middle of this line. Going into a person's member page, You have their name, of course, their family, which is Chu. This is all also from my template. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and show you how my generation pages are set up. I also have a template for this. There are two Kanbans that show me on one side. It is maternal, and everyone that is in generation 6 on my maternal side. Then I have paternal, and paternal, and all of their maps as well. So I can just scroll down and see where they're at. I also have links to previous generation, and down at the bottom is the next generation 7, where I have yet to put in a template, but I guess I could do it right now for you. So if I bring up the Roam42 menu for all my templates, I do have a template called Gen, and it should give me everything inside of 4 separate Kanbans. There we go. You'll see that all 4 are neatly put in place. I'll come down here and clean up the references a little bit so it looks nice. Going back to Jonas, I want to show you how this map is set up. So this is from that extension from Roam.js that's really cool, where you can generate maps. This is also a part of my template. I'm not doing this manually. I have underneath the map a few different conditions. So we have the center, a latitude and longitude that I want this to be placed in the window, and also a zoom. I like zooming out just in case, you know, they're coming from across the ocean. I want to be able to see it in a wide scope. And then of course you can always zoom in and see also the labels. So that's kind of how that works. Coming down to early life section, inside my form in my template, what my script does is it takes when they were born, it gives the date inside of this inline code, and then next to it, it gives the decade from that date, which is the 1850s, and then the place of birth being New Jersey. That is extracting from my city that I put inside the form. If I go into this decades page, I also have a template for decades. And what it does is it gives me all the people born in this decade and all the people who died in this decade. It also, at the very top, gives me a link to the century this decade is from. So we're kind of zooming out with the timeline aspect. So if I click into 19th century, I can see all the decades here. And again, this is also from a template. And then basically a duplicate of my early life section is in the later life section, does the same exact thing. And I have also a calculation that shows me the age the person died. Their occupation, if I click into their occupation, I can see everyone else that was a carpenter that I have thus far. Their zodiac sign, I do have a script that collects their zodiac. I don't know how useful that is, but maybe I'll find a use for it. Also, I have a link down here for Notion import, which I'll get into. Their children, which is the very top is their first child born, to the bottom is their last child born, all nested underneath of each other. The reason why I nest them together is because if I were to click on someone, maybe this person here, and I want to see all of their siblings, I can come down to the back link and I can see their parents here, one of which is Laura and Jonas. And if I click down, all of the other siblings she has. And I can also click up here, kind of expand the whole thing, and just file through them. Let's get into the Notion import and the template. I'm just going to do an example of a new person in the family and what I would do and how these forms are filled out very quickly. This all seems like a lot, but really all of this is here so that the process of researching and inputting information for each person is super quick. And also the import into Notion, super quick. So let's say inside of the Chu family, I want to find Elwood's father and kind of just keep going down the line. Bring up my menu and I'm gonna find person. And this is sort of my main template to get all of that information for each person. First is this side of the family this person is on, which is paternal. abbreviated to PP. 8. First and last name, let's say a name I don't have. Name Sheldon Chu. Place of death, I think I do not have, I don't know, first city comes to mind is Tampa Bay, Florida for some reason. Let's say that. Place of birth, maybe Salt Lake City, Utah. Date of death, let's make this a little bit realistic, I guess. 16th of August, 1850. Date of birth, the 18th of September, 1794. And let's say the marriage, I don't know the marriage. So whenever I don't know a date, I put in the sequence 1-1-4 zeros. Occupation, let's just say generally a laborer. Movement, this indicates immigration. This case, let's say no, none. And then I have the Ancestry URL. So in most cases, this is coming from Ancestry.com and their profile page, but in some other cases, I'm getting information from other websites, and I will put that main website in here. So just for a placeholder, I'll put the word URL, and then that's it. And the template will populate. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. I'm sure it will. Great. That Notion import page showed up in my sidebar, and at the very top, I have name Sheldon Chu, which is the name. I have the family name right next to it, all divided by these pipelines. This is all the information I want to put into Notion. So this is just selective information that I think is best for telling this man's story. So I am omitting some information. I don't bring over full dates. Part of me regrets that, and I might change it, but for right now, I'm just carrying over years. I like putting this Notion import over in the sidebar at the end of the template, just in case I have any misspellings or typos, because I tend to go through these forms very quickly if I am confident with the information. We have the family, so what this template did was extracted the last name, threw it inside of a link, and now I can click through it and go back to Chu. You'll notice that I also have his birth year, 1794, right next to him, and Florida, because that is where he died. See, later in life, he died in the city of Tampa Bay, Florida. And this map has generated 2 markers, one of which he died in Florida, and I can really zoom in if I want, and then the other in Utah. And then I can just press this refresh button to get back to the original view. Early life, I have born, the date he was born inside of an inline code. 1790s is the decade he was born, which I actually do not have a page for, and I can make that right now. I have a template for decades, P decade. And that will give me all the births and the deaths. Again, I'm generating that century, which is also through my script, and deca, which is just a tag to indicate this is a decade. I can go to 18th century and see everything within the 18th century. And I like to clean up the backlinks down here because visually it bothers me. So I take away born and died. Place of birth, which is Utah. I can click through to here and see everyone born in Utah. If I come down to place of death, Florida, for instance, I actually do have other people in my tree who are from Florida, but none have been born in Florida. A lot of them died in Florida. But yeah, this query will generate everyone born in Florida. This is also a template that I put in my main sort of broad regions, and which in this case is Florida, and then down below all of the cities that relate to Florida. So if I look at maybe Palm Beach, let's say this is just a new city that I just created, I'm going to populate with a template called cPlace, and it will extract that Florida link and give me all the people born in Palm Beach, Florida, if that ends up being the case down the line. I want to share with you how I populate all of the children of a new person. I'm going to say JJ to get up my template menu, and I'm going to find new child, Chu, born in, I don't know, 1822. Press enter and it will give me an extended family member link style. If I click on Robert 2, I'll have EX, which stands for extended, / the year he was born / his name. So the reason why I do this, I need to differentiate between every Robert Chu that may populate. So all of this usually takes me, if I'm really confident with the information through the form, maybe like 3 or 4 minutes tops. If I need to do research, which a lot of the time I do, I'm gonna go through these forms a lot slower as I go into other websites and I grab information. But what I really like about this form setup, of course I can just put unknown if I really don't know, but it forces me to really focus on each aspect: where they're born, where they died, when they were born, when they were married. So I have to laser focus on each one and not jump around sporadically like I usually do. So let's go into the Notion side of things, go into the Notion import. So if I go into this page, at the front of the database, if you're familiar with Notion, you need a name, which is going to be the name of the person. In the next, I have the family, and then after that, I have a generation. And in Notion, it is laid out exactly in this way from left to right, so that the import is super, super quick. Now at the very end of each person, which is why I like opening it up in the sidebar when the template is complete, is I put a little pipeline at the end and I give it a status tag. You'll see down here, like, here's a tag for complete or loose ends. This is coming from my original workflow for Ancestry research from like a year ago. I have a text expander template list of specific status tags for Ancestry research. I think I have like 5 different tags. I have complete, when all information is pretty much complete and I'm confident in it. Loose ends, there might be some unknown information, unverified information. Open door tag is, I can keep going with that line. A lot of the spouses from these through lines, I like putting open door just in case I want to explore that family line. Active, members that I am actively researching. So in order to import, let's say this entire section here, I want to import all of these people. I'll go up to the Roam42 menu, which is with that Roam.js extension, Roam42. There is an option for a converter, and this is really nice because it will convert your page into a lot of different outputs actually. You can have something like text, or GitHub flavored Markdown, HTML, JSON, and I'm just going to copy down to the last line I made. And then what I'll do is I'll go into Excel. You could also probably use Google Sheets. In fact, I do plan on using Google Sheets in the future. What I do is I just paste all of that information inside of Excel, and then I do a special import. I'll use my text import wizard, which I think most spreadsheets have this. When you paste into your spreadsheet, you can paste special or do a special paste. And what I'll do is just make sure that, hopefully you guys can see this. I can't figure out a way to zoom in, but I will separate all this information by those pipelines that I set up in my Roam template, right? So the delimiters is going to be other, and then I'll just put a little pipe. And now all of my information will be separated by those pipes. I think that's what they're called, straight lines. And then finish. Now everything is neatly aligned and put together in each cell. What I'll do is just copy, come over to Notion, where I have everything set up in the exact same fashion inside of this database view that I named Auto. So I go into here and then I just paste it. And everything should show up, including my status tags, inside of a select property, and everything's good. I mean, I can go back to Roam and continue researching, or I can go into my manual database view that I call manual, and I can start assigning from this new batch of people I imported all of their relationships, which is just their parents, their children, husband, and wife. Now this stuff I can't import from a spreadsheet. I can't import relations. I think you can if you can find the Notion URL to that, but that's like, it's not going to work for my workflow. That's kind of why I like doing large batches, but not too large, so I can come into these relationships and fill this out. And then when I'm done, I click my Done Import checkbox, and then all of this will disappear. I'm actually gonna delete this because I don't want duplicates. And if I go into my All database view, I will see all of my people in here with all of their information. All of the information that I imported here is the only information I'm using in order to organize the data and tell a story. And I'm making sure this is the only information so I don't have to keep going back and adding new things. I do make my final changes in Notion though. So I'm kind of treating Notion like I would the booklet, where it's like my final draft. It's like my digital version of that booklet. So if there's any permanent changes, I'm gonna make sure they're inside of Notion. And my family members can also comment on these pages and let me know where I'm wrong, which they have done. So that's also really cool as well. I can publicize these pages just for my family members, and they can be invited in to comment. Once all this information is put into Notion and I go through those relationships, all of it will get filtered through some templates and pages and roll-ups and formulas that I created initially, and all of that will happen automatically. So I'm going to show you sort of how the hub of Notion works. It is still definitely a work in progress, but I am getting somewhere and I really do like it. Inside of my master family database, I have another view called Through. This is everybody who is not an extended member. So when I go and I do my import, I actually have a checkbox called Through right here. And if you are planning on using something like I did inside of Roam to export, if you want to translate checkboxes, just make sure that the data you're putting inside between the pipelines or whatever you want to use to differentiate cells is either yes or no. And that should translate to a checkbox being checked or unchecked. I also have some formulas set up, so depending on what type of information I have in here is how the event will be generated. So in this case, he has a pretty complete profile. So everything is completely filled out. Born in 1852 in Gloucester, New Jersey. Married in 1874 to Laura Hamilton Sheldon at the age of 22. So I'm also generating how old they were when these events occurred. And if I go through to the properties, there is a lot of back-end work here to make this happen. Again, I'm just using that data that I imported. Another formula I have is the age they died, just like in Roam. Down in the body of the page, here's what populates upon clicking a male or female template. What we have at the very top is a link to the family this person is associated with, which in this case would be Chu. And if I click through to the family directory, I have a page just for Chu, all of the members of this family who have this last name. I also have other families, so I can navigate to other families without having to click around. I also grabbed the earliest year associated with this family, which in this case is 1885, and then the latest year that they died. So if I go down here to how this roll-up is configured, I'm grabbing the members, the year they died, and then calculating the max number associated. Down below the families, we have the parents. So this is going to be a portal that will populate all of the parents associated with this person. Down below that will be the siblings and then the children. And you'll notice that there is a through checkbox showing. I like showing this like in the same way you see in Roam with the blue link identifying the through child. Also the year they were born. This is also sorted by the year they were born. So this is really nice for family members that are more low tech and don't really know how to navigate programs like this. I also have down here the documents associated with each person. I have a documents database, and through the documents database, I'm able to link what document is associated with what person. I have a duplicate here, which is a bit annoying. Let me delete that. And there you go. You have a link to a person, and that will show up at the bottom of his page. Coming back into the master family database, you'll notice that I have these events showing through the cards. So if I go to someone that, let me make sure it doesn't have a ton of comments, like Mary Ellen Diamond, she doesn't really have a whole lot of information. There's a lot of loose ends here. You'll notice that there is a formula property that gives me all the missing information I have in my database. And if I go into this synced navigation block here and go to ongoing research, she should show up inside of this page because I have a filter to a linked database that shows me missing is not empty. Also, if I go to the home page of my Ancestry hub, I can see a Kanban or a board view of all of my research dead end, loose ends, open door tags to sift through. And also my dead ends over here. And down below that, I have family descriptions. These are just, really I just Googled surname meanings and placed them all down here to flip through. This is also another way to flip through different last names, different families. I also have a section for latest documents. This is coming from my documents database. So right here is Ancestry documents. And what I do is I use Save to Notion extension in order to save documents to this database. Here's an example. Let's say with this person here in Ancestry.com, I want to save over this gravestone to my document, or I want to save over like a draft card or a marriage record. What I can do is go to my extension for Save to Notion and just filling everything out. So the person it's connected to, the type, gravestone, the year that might be associated, which may be in this case 1925, and the notes that I have attached to it. I do want windows of pictures and documents that are interesting for them to look at. I'm not going to save over census records, for instance, because that's not super exciting. I don't think people really care about that stuff. But gravestones and, marriage announcements, newspaper clippings, yearbook photos, stuff like that is very interesting, and I want to send that over. I just have a simple grid here for now. And I do have a little linked database to the latest documents that I've found. That is pretty much it. I think this video went on longer than it really needed to, but I got really excited. I wanted to share with you my little process here. But yes, let's just go right into the outro. I am probably going to focus for the next maybe month and a half on a lot of student-based Notion templates, note-taking, and also finance. I know you guys really like that personal cash flow video, which really surprised me, so I'm excited to explore that further. With that being said, look out for a bigger Ancestry template on my Gumroad page, probably by maybe middle of August. So I'll see you guys the rest of the week on Twitter and next time with a new video. See you then.